I went to CES in Las Vegas to check out Segway's latest lineup of micromobility vehicles, from entry-level electric scooters to what I can only describe as an electric motorbike. This third generation has options for any rider. But today, I'm going to be focusing on one scooter in particular and an e-bike that should be on the radar of anybody looking to electrify their commute in the near future. First off, I want to say thank you to Segway for sponsoring this video, and I think it's worth mentioning that I only agreed to the partnership after I made the case that I would not let it impede my unfiltered opinions about any of the bikes and scooters I rode. To my surprise, Segway was happy to oblige, and I quickly found out why. They know they've got something good. Segway has simply listened to their customers and implemented the features that they have been asking for, and the results are nothing less than polished and modern. I have personally been a longtime user of one of Segway's products, the Ninebot Max. It happens to be the first electric micromobility device I ever owned and was actually the seed that kickstarted this channel. If you're unfamiliar, the Ninebot Max was released in 2019 and very quickly became the most recommended option for people looking to get on a scooter. It's affordable, has excellent range, and most importantly, it's reliable. This thing is built like a tank. I've owned mine for over 3 years, and it's still going strong, with filling the tires being the only maintenance required. Following in its tracks was the Max G2, just released a few years ago. But what has come next is something of a departure from the simple design of its predecessors. This is the Max G3. It is, at least in my experience, the best, or at least the most well-balanced commuter scooter that you can get today. I'm often asked by friends, colleagues, and folks online which scooter they should get, and I'd be hard-pressed not to point in the direction of the Max G3. Like, this is it. This is the new standard. It's got power to tackle hills, stability to keep you upright, and it's a blast to ride. It comes equipped with a 597 watt-hour battery capable of getting up to 80 kilometers of range, which takes 3.5 hours to charge, or you can shave off an hour of that time by using the additional charge port on the stem, which is also capable of accepting an external battery to bump up the range to a max of 135 kilometers. The rear motor is rated at a maximum output of 2,000 watts, and the top speed is 45 kilometers per hour. And to rein in that power, they've included cable disc brakes on both wheels, which provide excellent stopping power. And close by is the adjustable hydraulic suspension. And this is probably my favorite addition to the Max. This suspension is fantastic. Even with tires at just 11 inches, this suspension will be able to damper anything you'll find riding around a city. I was honestly very impressed with this upgrade. The handlebars are swept back slightly for comfort and stability, and there you'll find a slick-looking display that not only offers a bevy of information like time, speed, range, and mode, it can also connect to your phone with call display and access the battery management system, which enables you to set a charge limit and a schedule. There are a few key features that I think take it over the top and in some ways are a necessity when considering a daily rider. For me, what comes to mind living in Vancouver, where we get over 170 days of rain a year, is how well it can withstand the wet. Somewhat of a problem for many scooters. But the Max G3 is rated at overall IPX6, which is capable of resisting powerful water jets, and the battery pack rated at IPX7, which can resist being submerged in water, more than enough to combat the moisture of a rainy day. And to help with seeing and being seen, there is an automatic front light, rear brake light, and turn signals on either side of the handlebars. Next is load capacity. At 285 pounds, it can certainly haul, and while scooters aren't typically known for their carrying capabilities, it appears as though Segway has modifications in mind, like a front basket and a rear rack. Lastly is durability. While I can't comment on this directly, it's something that has to come from the community as a whole. I know the Segway P100S had issues with the suspension, but that style seems to have been replaced with the hydraulic suspension like on the Max G3, and something that they have continued to include are self-healing tires. Some folks have had problems with these in the past with the compound lining the tire leaking out, but that is quite rare and I would say a worthy trade-off considering the lack of flats. And the list of cons is short, but the first are the turn signals. While I love the inclusion on the handlebars, it would be nice to also have them flanking the rear wheel. The screen I found was a bit too dim when dealing with full sunlight, and this is a bit nitpicky, but the deck is a bit high. With the inclusion of the robust hydraulic suspension, this is inevitable as with any scooter, but can make it more difficult to kick off, especially for shorter riders. But that's the Max G3. It's my favorite scooter of the new lineup, but I can't discount the F3, which is just a tier below the Max G3 and is, at least to me, the spiritual successor to the previous Max models. Definitely worth looking at as it shares many of the features of the Max G3, but with a similar power output of the previous Max models. Also was the GT3 and GT3 Pro. This is Segway's super scooter to replace the GT1 and the GT2, and, well, just listen. Oh. Yeah, it's fast, like top speed 80 kilometers per hour fast. It's too quick for my needs. But the one thing they all had in common, they were a blast to ride. So is what comes next. And what Segway has done is taken the leap headfirst into what I might describe as the ultimate micromobility device. Bicycles are already the most efficient way to move. Add some electricity to the mix, and you're laughing, bud. If you've never ridden an e-bike before, it's an experience you should be familiar with. It's like riding a bike, but better. That extra boost you get from the electric motor is enough to put a smile on anybody's face. It's just pure joy. I really can't convey it. But it's like riding a bike for the first time. And this is it. This is the Segway Xafari. Powering the Xafari is you with a classic crank and derailleur, but also a 750 watt hub motor and a 936 watt hour removable and lockable battery capable of up to 141 kilometers on a single charge. And at its max class 2 speed of 32 kilometers per hour, it should be able to get you at least half of that, around 65 kilometers, with gains made if you decide to dial down the power. It has 12 levels of pedal assist, easily selectable with the scroll wheel on the left, or you can simply use the throttle on the right. The display gives you information like power assistance level, estimated range, caller ID, and airlock, which is a proximity lock that links to your phone. Hydraulic disc brakes offer excellent stopping power in the wet or dry. And speaking of the wet, it's got mud guards, while the battery and display have a water resistance rating of IPX7, and with the body at IPX5, which is on the edge, but should be adequate for rainy days. And something I really love about this bike is the suspension, the feel, with lockable 80 millimeters of travel in the front and 70 in the rear. And something to help with the suspension are actually the tires. They are 26 by 3 inches, and these tires are in the fat territory, which allows a lower pressure to absorb more bumps for a very cushy ride. And considering their size, it shouldn't be too hard to find studded tires for those of you looking to ride in icy conditions. But what sets this bike apart from the scooters is hauling capacity. Having a rack on a utilitarian bike is a given, and thankfully included on the Xafari, with the bike able to support a whopping 395-pound payload, and the rack alone carrying 55 pounds of that. And something else that comes standard is lighting. Here we have a rear brake light and a 1300 lumen headlight. And the last feature I want to mention is very welcome. It's a USB charging port to keep your phone topped up. But most importantly, it's how it feels. And what this bike gives you is an exhilarating, comfortable ride. Honestly, my only complaint are the water resistance rating of IPX5, which is pretty standard and should be enough, but I'd like to see IPX6, and that the bike is a one-size-fits-all, which accommodates riders between the range of 5'1" and 6'2". But that's it, that's the Segway Xafari, and it was accompanied by another bike called the Xyber, which offers way more power and range with a max output of 6,000 watts and a top speed over 55 kilometers per hour and over 160 kilometers of range. It's basically an electric motorbike, but there is a Class 2 version of this bike coming if you're into the style but don't want that power. There it is, the latest generation of Segway's micromobility offerings. You can pre-order the Xafari, Xyber, and GT3 now, with the rest of the lineup soon to come. And with that, my name is Nick. Thanks for watching.